Welcome to OhSister, where I unpack my Mormon sister missionary journals 10 years later. So today I want to talk about trios, really, and kind of just more than just a trio companionship, just more about the missionary companionship. Because I haven't talked about that as much as I have things to say. But, something that's interesting sort of in general about the expectations of your mission companionship is that it's supposed to be like learning of how to be with your eternal companion, aka your spouse. And that is something that was actually talked about, like part of the trainings we would get and the things that our mission president would say to us. And I think I'm going to read some stuff in Preach My Gospel that kind of refers to this. But yeah, there is this idea that your time with your missionary companions are training you for your marriage. And it's easy to kind of look back at that now and kind of laugh and be like, oh, well, I guess the Mormon church is more like okay with like gay relationships, or like in the situation of being in a trio, it's like, oh, I guess they're okay with polyamory, and kind of like tongue in cheek, but at the same time, like, I'm pretty sure on my mission I considered how this was probably what it was like to be polygamous sister wives, so like maybe heaven wouldn't actually be that bad, because I had a lot of fun with when I was in this trio with these two other women, with these two companions. I was like, oh yeah, we're like doing God's work and it's like fun, and maybe, when eventually like whoever I marries and like I die and they get remarried, like maybe it won't be so bad. Like I remember kind of thinking about that on my mission. So interesting, right? So part of being in a missionary companionship, one of the things that you're supposed to be doing for the like health of your companionship, and also this is like in practice for when you're married, is you're supposed to do weekly planning every week. And the final step of weekly planning is doing a companionship inventory. And it says things like, discuss the strength of your relationship with your companion, resolve conflicts, share with your companion what you think his or her strengths are, ask for suggestions on how you can improve. So yeah, I really saw this as training for being in a relationship with my future eternal companion, especially since Mormon doctrine does teach that any random man and woman, as long as they are faithful members, could be happily married together. So the sort of random factor of trying to build a relationship with random ladies and spending time with them a lot was like practice for that kind of marriage. So that's weird. And I was just in this really cool opera training thing, and we were focused on a new opera, learning how to sing new American opera. And in this event I was in, I learned that there has recently been an opera written about FLDS women. So it's about Mormon polygamy, and I don't think it gets into like the historical stuff as much as like the sort of Warren Jeffs era, but still I'm fascinated by that. I haven't like found a way to watch it or listen to it yet, but if you are interested, which I'm assuming you are if you're listening to this, it's called Dark Sisters. Let's see, what's the composer's name? The composer's not Mormon, which is interesting, right? But he is, okay, I can't find his first name, but his last name is Muley. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a tragedy, of course, but I really wanna watch that and see what things seem on point and what things seem kind of off and what things are scarily familiar, right? Yeah, but I also wanted to talk about the aspect of Trunky missionaries and how things like this can create conflict in missionary companion or tripanionships. And at least for me, it was just hella awkward and unaddressable and uncomfortable. So, as I discussed last week, the state of the sister missionary in the church's social hierarchy is somewhat precarious since the church is founded on patriarchal, misogynist themes. So for me on my mission, I was keenly aware that I needed to present myself to be a serious spiritual leader, not only to the non-members we were talking to, but perhaps especially to the local ward members. Preach My Gospel chapter 9 focuses on making sure missionaries build relationships with the members. And the specific direction is that in order for our missionary work to go well, the members had to respect us. And with the previously discussed historical bias against women having a real meaningful influence in the church, which directly translates to sister missionaries, it was then doubly important for me to be extra obedient and Christ-like and hardworking and serious and respectable, especially in this new area that had previously had elders, and so no one there knew these new sisters. So I say this with retrospective love, but oh boy, was it hard on me to serve with these two women. Looking back, I can actually see how normal and probably good it was that they were a little more emotionally open and honest, that they let themselves be excited to go home and sometimes being annoyed at, still being out on their mission. And also I can see how at the time I felt so much internal and external pressure to show up perfectly, and it was so frustrating that they weren't living up to these standards, at least from my perspective. And the extra tricky thing about that is that I had been taught my whole life to have fake relationships, to people please, to be a peacemaker, to shun conflict, and so I just never really spoke up. Like in companionship inventory, there is a chance to, it kind of teaches you to beat around the bush, and you're not really supposed to say like, XYZ you're doing wrong. You're supposed to say, this is what you're doing well, and then you're supposed to ask for feedback. But like, that was always weird, right? So yeah, I knew I was supposed to give feedback, but I typically tried to give feedback that wouldn't seem like an attack, so, I didn't tell them when I thought they were being unprofessional, or when I was embarrassed about something, or my boundaries were crossed in some way, but there was so much simmering resentment, so much judgment, and I was ashamed that I felt so judgmental and resentful. So I tried to shove that down too, and I'm sure it just was always coming out sideways. I'm sure they could tell. I'm sure I was super passive aggressive. And actually, if I remember correctly, this is the point when I started sleepwalking regularly again. It hadn't been happening much in my life since, I would randomly, maybe once a year, like when we were out camping or something, I would have an incident where I was sleepwalking that would kind of freak people out, but it wasn't like a normal thing, but it started to be a normal thing again in this area with these companions. And I think just a lot of it was all of this undercurrent of me being stressed and worried and not able to talk about it, and yeah. So that's little brief foray into those dynamics. Let's dive into the journals. I've been having a great time working on this project, and it turns out it takes a lot of time every week to keep this up. If you have the desire and the means to support me financially, it really helps a lot. Of course, I do have a disclaimer that your donations will not bring eternal salvation for you or anyone else. But there are links in the description where you can make a one-time donation, or you can sign up to be a monthly patron to support this and my other creative work. Thank you, and let's get back to it. Monday, April 6, 2015. Mission Day 178. I don't think that yesterday I mentioned we'd driven up to Spearfish, but we did, and we stayed the night to be here today. And we had to be here today because we scheduled to hike Notch Trail with Sydney. She's about 18, the only active member in her family, and has some ups and downs due to mental health struggles. But we four get along well together. Our hike today ended up being joined with the missionaries from MLC. So I got to see Sister Johnson some. It was different and a little sad to not be her companion and to realize that there's distance between us, but I'm glad we saw each other. And it was so fun to go on a hike. The wind was blowing pretty good and it was about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but hey, at least we weren't tracting. Winky face. I had fun getting to know more about Sydney too. While emailing a significant other today, Sister Crompton was basically proposed to. Isn't that something? We packed up an overnight bag again and took a cool drive out to Hot Springs, with a stop in the countryland on the way. A sister, might have been Calhoun, who lives home by herself but keeps a very chic homestead, orange walls, leather couches, and talking microwave. Pretty fun. It's past 10:30 though. We are going to be so tired tomorrow. Okay. Yes. We went hiking on our P day. First, already you could see how my P days with these companions in this area were very different from the P days I'd had before. You know, before we were kind of more like, yeah, we're just gonna try to get everything done within the schedule as given. And here we are like actually going hiking, which felt really weird and wild and I think was good for me. But also, you know, there was some like, uh-oh, are we using our time well? We don't have time to go on fun hikes. We gotta get our laundry done and buy groceries. But yeah, let me talk about the having Sister Johnson there. So I mentioned that our hike was joined with the missionaries from MLC. I've not talked about MLC before. MLC stands for Missionary Leadership Council or Conference, maybe. It's like once every transfer, I think. All the missionaries who are in mission leadership callings, specifically sister training leaders and zone leaders, they go and get together at the mission home and they do a training in addition to all the other trainings. And I remember this would have been one of the first times I kind of learned about what MLC was. And we were close enough to the mission home at this hike that, you know, the missionaries who were at MLC for their training, they came and went on the hike with us. Anyway, this is one of the first times that I was exposed to like, oh, here's this upper echelon club of missionary leaders. And like, if I want to have power and influence or, you know, basically just work on my spiritual resume, really. It's like, oh, this is something I didn't know was a thing, and now I know it's a thing, so I already kind of wanted to be a sister training leader, but now I was like, yep, I hope I become the sister training leader and I could be part of the important conferences. So yeah, that's what MLC is. So then to move on to what was going on with Sister Johnson, right? So my old companion, I had literally just been with her like a week, like less than a week ago, maybe. Maybe there'd been like a week and 2 days. But really, we had been together 24/7 for months. For 12 weeks, I think. And all of a sudden, she showed up there with her new companion, and I was there with my trio, and it was like, oh, we can't, like, it's not the same. We can't hang out. We're not, we're not stuck together. We're now stuck to other people. So, like, we're still kind of friends, but, like, we have different, like, by the rules, we're supposed to be with other people, so we're around each other, but it was like, oh, we can't talk the same. It's not the same, and, like, you're not my senior companion anymore, And it was like, yeah, I'm glad that I at least wrote in my journal that I was honest. I said, it's sad to realize, like, I'm not her companion anymore, and it's like, we're not as close as we were, because this is a good insight. At that point, on my mission, we were close with people because we were physically close with them. And then once that intense physical proximity was gone, we weren't actually that close, because we didn't actually get to know each other as people, because we were getting to know our missionary personalities and personas, right? But I mean, if you are with someone 24/7 for weeks at a time, you do sort of get to know them. But once you're not, like, in the same missionary persona dynamic, it's different, right? Anyway, that's what I was experiencing. It was funny that I was like, it was really cold and it was super windy, but hey, at least we weren't tracting. And really, anytime I was doing anything that was slightly unpleasant, it was always like, hey, at least I'm not tracting. Like, even on my mission. Oh, I hated it. Oh. Anyway, I think the last thing I want to say about this day was how casually and just, like, off the cuff moment it was that Sister Crompton was proposed to in, like, an email. It was just, like, a normal thing. It wasn't like, oh my god, like, freak out, this is crazy, let me write all about it. It was just like, oh yeah, this happens sometimes. Like, not that it was super normal for people to just get proposed to all the time, but it definitely seems like it felt more normal than it was. She was maybe 21 at this point. She was about to go home from her mission. And I guess someone had been friends with before was like, hey, you're getting home. Like, we should get married. I don't think she married this person. But what a way to propose to the person you have a crush on, over email while they're a missionary. Blech. All right. Tuesday, April 7th, 2015. Mission Day 179. Sister Crompton and Sister Feist realized that they're going home in 5 weeks. A past Elder Gillespie was visiting his mission, and he told us how sad it is, and now they're depressed. If I ever, and then I crossed it out and I wrote, I think sending sisters home is the best way to prevent trunkiness. I never want to stop being a missionary. The Dalton's dog totally attacked me while walking in today. I got scratches on my hand. I don't think he liked the animal repellent I'd put on Sister Calhoun's plants for her this morning. Smiley face. I think I forgot to say that Jenna had her baby. She's named Hannah, and Jenna is going to be an amazing mom. Okay. So, yeah, I think with Sister Crompton and Sister Feist, yep, they're all depressed now because I think Elder Gillespie was one of the elders who, he'd been in this area. I don't think he left and then we, like, pink washed right after him. I think it had been a while since he'd been there, but he was he'd been home long enough that he was going back on his mission to see everyone. And I actually did that too. I went on a mission tour a while after I got home. But yeah, it was Sister Crumpton and Sister Feist were really excited to go home, but also it's really sad. And I remember we met with him at some local diner or something, and he was telling us how hard it was to be home and not have purpose anymore, and now he has to figure out what he's doing with his life and everything, and then they were just very depressed after that, because they're like, oh no, it's so nice to be a missionary, and even though it's hard, the things that are nice about it are, well, I have my calling and election made sure, meaning if I die while I'm a missionary, I'm just going straight to heaven, and also when you go home, if people go home and they say, oh, it's just really depressing and I wish I was a missionary forever, I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good reason to feel sad. It was really weird for me, though, when I was reading this, to read, I wrote down, I never want to stop being a missionary. And that feels really excessive, because even though I had just written, I was always so tired, and I was even being honest with myself that I hated tracting and stuff, but even all the stuff that I could see was hard about it, I was it's good actually. The hard stuff is still good, and the good stuff is amazing, and mostly it's good anyway. There's just, I told myself there's just a little bit that's hard, but it's good hard, and I was so scared of going home and having to deal with making decisions and figuring out what to do with life. Yeah. So I might make that a weekly theme, is talking about that more, but also, 2 more things from this day. I forgot that I feel like I had more weird interactions with dogs on my mission than is normal, but I don't know. Maybe if you're just walking around knocking on people's doors, it is pretty common to have more negative interactions with dogs, right? But yeah, I forgot that animal repellent is a thing. What even is that? I know I know that there's deer repellent and bear repellent, but what's animal repellent? I don't know, something dogs don't like. Okay, but yeah, the last thing I want to talk about today was my friend Jenna had her baby. Now, my friend Jenna is one of my dear high school friends, and we were, I had a really tight, close group of friends in high school, but Jenna was one of the girls that I was quite close with. We were in student government together and stuff like that. So she was a few months older than me, so she was maybe close to 20, but she was probably, she might have still been 19, and she just had her first baby. She'd gotten married and was having her first baby, and I can just see how sometimes in my journal, when I write about women on my mission, there's this weird element of me kind of not respecting them in a way. But the times when I write about women with respect is if they're also missionaries, or if they're actively members and their moms. And I was especially impressed by my friend Jenna, because I was taught that it's good to go on missions, but ultimately my responsibility and my divine role is to be a mother. So it was I was still kind of waiting to reach that ultimate pinnacle and responsibility, and she was doing it, and I was, I thought that it was scary and brave of her, and I thought, I was just like, yeah, she's gonna be an amazing mom. And now, looking back, I mean, I think she does do a good job, but hard to be so young. You know, a lot of people do it, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are not moms when they're 19, 20, and I know that can be really hard. So I'm glad she's doing, I'm glad, pregnancy went well, delivery went well, all of that. And it was really great to see pictures, right? And that's a big, big topic. And I'm glad she's doing well. But yeah, I guess, okay, I believe that my friends who have babies, they fully made that choice, right? And I, give them space to do that. And also, I am aware that a lot of the decisions that I have made in my life were very dependent on what I was taught all growing up in the church that I should do. For example, going on a mission. And only now do I feel like I'm getting a better idea of what I want out of life. And I often think to myself that I'm grateful that I don't have the commitment yet of having children, because, at least for me, it's hard for me to know whether I still want to do it because it was something I was taught so much, or because it's something I really want. And I only want to have children if I really feel like it's what I want. So I'm not saying that's everybody's experience, but that certainly is my experience. And if you are an LDS woman or ex-Mormon woman listening to this, you probably have thought about this some yourself. So I don't know, let me know what you think. With the whole young motherhood thing. But yeah, let's keep going. Wednesday, April 8th, 2015, Mission Day 180. We've had a lovely day today. It was a misty, moisty morning, but we still got to go to the track, spearfish again today. We got in some LA, less active, lessons, and I got to meet Nora, a biker grandma with pink hair and heeled boots who would literally kill, parentheses, totally serious, and then I drew a serious emoji face, to protect her grandson. Despite their desires to increase in health, Sister Feist and Sister Crompton had us go through the McDonald's drive-thru. I got a parfait. Oh my god. After planning tonight, I sat with my head in Sister Feist's lap, and she played with my hair while we chatted, and Sister Crompton plucked at the guitar. It's nice to feel like part of a family again. Smiley face. We get to introduce Sister Feist to the parrots tomorrow. Oh boy. Okay, so I'll probably talk about Nora some more. This awesome lady. Now I'm like, maybe there was something going on. I'm not sure all what was going on, but in any case, yes, this woman, Nora, had connections with, what was it? I guess maybe I shouldn't say the name of the gang. She had connections. She was in with a famous biker gang. And she would tell us stories about how she was possibly overly protective of her grandson and not trusting her child to be a good parent, and sending out gang members to go watch them. Yeah, I remember being like, oh wow, this feels really out of my normal interactions with at least certainly older LDS women. So in a sense, it was cool to meet a woman who was so not the stereotypical LDS woman. But also sometimes I was like, I feel like I need to be careful what I say around her. Yeah. Then, of course, pivoting, once again, I am going on food shaming, health shaming stuff. And this time it's not just myself, but I'm being super passive aggressive at my companions. And like, oh, the way that I wrote that was very embarrassing to read. Now I'm like, yeah, if you're hungry and you need to get food and McDonald's is the option, you need to eat food. So go to McDonald's. It's okay. Even if it feels super unhealthy or whatever, you're going to be okay, and it's good to feed yourself. So, yeah, it's sad looking back on all that. The growing intensity of the food shaming, health shaming stuff, it's going to keep getting worse. And then, yeah, I mentioned parrots. I don't know that I talk about it in my journals, though. So there was some animal rescue in the town we were in, one of the towns we were covering, and they had a bunch of parrots, which I think is because people will get a pet parrot, and parrots live a long time, and then if they get rid of the parrot, well, or if the person dies even, like, the parrot's still alive. So they had a lot of parrots, and we were set up to go help clean out the bird poop from the cages. And I actually learned from that experience that you should never put your hand or fingers close to the cages of a parrot cage, specifically parrots, but also kind of just birds in general, but definitely parrots, because they're really fast and they might peck at your finger. And sure enough, I actually, when I was home from my mission, I was going on a date with this cute guy who we did end up getting married. We were going on this date at this animal refuge sanctuary place, and there was a parrot cage, and he wanted to put his hand close to like take a picture, and I was like, no, don't get close, it'll get you. And he was like, no, it's okay, I'll just take a picture. And sure enough, as he was taking the picture, the parrot flew over and bit his finger. And he's got this funny picture that was taken mid-bite of like a parrot flying over. And anyway, that's my weird information about parrots that I got from my mission. So let's see how that goes. Thursday, April 9th, 2015. Mission day 181. We started out the day pretty well, except we didn't get to study since it's parrot day. Sister Feist didn't really like cleaning up parrot droppings, ... I love working together, but I'm finding it to be extremely discouraging / wearing / disappointing to be working less diligently / 80% obedient. They let some things slide just by what they've always done, and then I start letting things slide, and it's not making me feel good. So I'm trying to work on that. I went into little sister mode being in this trio, and I've realized just how following I am / was. I'm realizing how I'll have to be with my sisters when I go home. I need to figure out how to do what I need to do and still love them. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Smiley face. Ugh. We're in Custer today, by the way, and we finally got to meet our investigator, Doug Guthrie. No sisters were able to make the appointment, so we did a hallway doorstep lesson. And it was so wonderful. The spirit was there, and I could discern that Doug has a desire to learn and grow. Alright, so yeah. Fair enough, Sister Feist did not like cleaning up parrot poo. I think that I just liked I don't think I particularly like cleaning up after the parrots, but I did like that we were not having to tract, if that makes sense. You know, lesser of two evils. And then I just go on this, I'm starting to grapple with the discomfort I had with not being 100% obedient. I wrote, we're being 80% obedient. And I've talked about that a lot. So yeah, we know I was getting super scrupulous. super focused on being obedient and not wanting to waste time and be a disappointment and disappoint God and sin and all that. I think what I'll point out this time is how I take that disappointment and I'm like, well, God's trying to teach me a lesson. Like, I can get something from this. There's something I can extrapolate and make it be a big spiritual lesson. And what I came up with was, well, just like how on my mission, if the people who are like the people who I look up to as sort of my authority sister figures, if they're not doing what I think is right and I'm having a hard time still doing what I should be doing, like, this is practice for me to go home and have older siblings who aren't doing church stuff, and I need to still do church stuff, but like I can still be around them, but I just still have to do the church stuff. And part of me now is like, yeah, I guess that's not like a terrible takeaway if I'm gonna be having to have a takeaway. Like, I wish that I could have just had the takeaway of maybe it's okay to not always be 100% exactly obedient. Like, maybe these two sisters who, they did very well. Like, they had been sister training leaders, they had trained, you know, they were doing well, and they weren't so, dot the I's, cross the T's, however that is. They weren't so perfectly careful about every little thing. So maybe it would have been good for me to take away that, oh, it's okay to be less exacting. You know, I'm just glad that I was willing to let them kind of do their thing, even if it was uncomfortable for me, and I was like, well, I'm not in charge of them, I am in charge of myself, so let me practice doing what I think I want to be doing and let other people do what they want to be doing. Because that is something that could be hard. But also, I do see some sort of pitfalls here. One pitfall being, I wish I could have just talked with them about it, and maybe I did, but I'm sure I wasn't completely fully honest. You know, if I brought stuff up, it was not in a completely like honest way, like, hey, this feels wrong, I feel frustrated about this, you know, like, I feel frustrated, I feel angry was not in my vocabulary, and I would not say it. And so anytime I tried to talk about this with them, it would have been weird, passive-aggressive, and like me pretending that it's fine, but like, oh, what if maybe we try this instead, you know, like, it just, there's no way that we were going to have a good conversation about it. So like that, I see a pitfall there of it's probably better for me to communicate with the people I'm with instead of just secretly being annoyed and quietly just trying to do my own thing but mad at them the whole time, right? That's not great. And then also, of course, the extremism of I'm gonna go home and like just be super Mormon, and I'm allowed to be in relationship with my non-Mormon family by just being even more extreme, you know. And I did it for a while, and it was not great. So let's just keep going. Friday, April 10th, 2015, mission day 182. ZTM this morning was pretty awesome. Zone training meeting. Elder Cook, my first district leader in Scranton, and Elder Walden are the zone leaders here, and they provided an excellent training on scriptures and the area book. Sister Crompton and Sister Feist shared their final testimonies, smiley face. We didn't even cry. yeah, I guess maybe I've mentioned this, but I'll just explain again. So every zone training meeting, once a transfer, the zone gets together, all the missionaries in the zone, so like several different districts, and any missionaries who are going home will give their final testimony. And it's meant to be this big, powerful thing. And, I don't remember what they said, but I can kind of remember the building and the vibes, right? And it would have been a sweet, tender, special moment, but it was always like, yes, sweet, tender, special, good, but we're sisters, we can't cry, so let's try not to cry, and we didn't. Okay. Saturday, April 11th, 2015, Mission Day 183. Just Sister Crompton and I today. It was definitely more of a quiet, normal missionary day. Right now, for instance, Sister Feist and Sister Crompton just attacked us all with a brownie batter. Yes, I took a video and pictures. Yes, my arms are covered in chocolate. We are so not going to bed on time. Beautifully calm in retrospect. I'm pretty sure Sister Feist has ADD. I love him so much. Oh my god. We had a lesson with Doug and Custer with the Goldsteins. Also, when Sister Crompton and I came up to Spearfish to be waiting at the apartment, Sister Feist still being on her way home back from the temple, we found that all the doors were locked. Smiley face. So we waited in the car for an hour listening to a talk on communication. When they arrived at 9, she realized that the keys were in the apartment. Luckily, it's super easy to break into our apartment here. We just slid the front window open and I hopped in without even a scream to hinder me. Hopefully nobody ever tries, I wrote that out, ever wants to break in here. So, yeah, kind of two big things from this day. I guess let's talk about the breaking in thing first, because I just talked about that. So, yeah, Sister Feist was going to the temple, and it was, it's uncommon for your companion to leave and go do a trip, but I think there was some sort of special circumstance where, like, someone she had baptized was going to the temple for the first time, something like that, so she went with them, and she was with members, so it was like okay for her to be by herself with them. She just always had to be with someone. And then I stayed back with Sister Crompton. And yeah, it was way less zany and etc. when it was just us two. We just kind of did our thing, a quiet, normal missionary day. And I wrote, it was beautifully calm. And I was trying so hard to write about it and think about it in like a positive way, like, okay, it's nice for it to be calm, but okay, when it's all three of us, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I think it was a little bit more than I was always ready for, sometimes it was kind of overwhelming how much would go on. And yeah, I do remember this day. I was just sort of sitting, writing in my journal at the end of the day, and Sister Feist was making brownies, and then all of a sudden they like ran in and like were throwing brownie batter everywhere, and I was like, what is my life? This is so out of my normal experience. Yeah, there are interesting, funny pictures from that, but I was trying to talk about the apartment being unlocked. So yeah, I'll go back now to what I was trying to talk about. The apartment. So yeah, we were locked out. Once again, we are locked out a lot. This is only our second week together. Locked out of our apartment, and then Sister Feist comes back, and she doesn't have the keys, and we're like, oh shoot, like our keys are in the apartment. And then it turns out, like, our front window, I could slide it open. Like, this feels like I shouldn't be saying this, but I don't live there, and no missionaries do. So, like, it's totally safe to say that our front window did not lock, and there was no screen, and it was, like, floor high. It was, like, on the ground level. So we just slide it over. I hopped through, and it was super easy. And unfortunately, this is a little bit foreshadowing of stuff that's going to happen next week with people wanting to break into our apartment. That didn't happen, but sort of the malicious intent was a little bit there. So just this happening made, what happened the next week, I think, feel a lot scarier, because this was like on my mind that my apartment didn't feel as safe as it had before I realized this. Yeah. So wait for next week for more of that. But let's go to the last day of this week, Sunday, April 12th, 2015, Mission Day 184. What a beautiful day. We got to be in Spearfish for church, and Sister Crompton and I got to share our testimonies during sacrament meeting. Sister Feist did an awesome job teaching gospel principles today, and Lara Kessler taught Relief Society. We had the musical Fireside in Rapid City Stake Center tonight at 6 p.m. We three did a trio of Sally DeFord's arrangement on Abide With Me. My other favorite numbers were Janet Seymour's Stand on Holy Ground and Elder Bertram's Lead Kindly Light / I Need Thee Every Hour piano solo. I'm not sure why, but I was feeling emotionally distant from music today. But I'm super excited for Sydney, because she, after going to the temple yesterday for the first time in 4 years, made the decision to serve a mission and talked with her mom about it, and it went well. And now we're helping her figure out what she should come to We're helping her figure out that she should come to Utah for school. Smiley face. Ooh. Okay, so another sort of stake music fireside we were able to be part of. Interesting. I wrote, I'm not sure why, but I was feeling emotionally distant from music today. And, usually when I was listen to music, that was when it felt, it would, make me cry, tear-jerkers, really sweet, perhaps overly saccharine. And I wasn't really feeling it, and it was weird. I wonder, was I just feeling like I wasn't in good place with God because I hadn't been super obedient, so it just, I felt guilty. I wonder, was I just starting to, my habit of just, let's just sort of emotionally shut down instead of dealing with feeling angry or frustrated with my companions. I'm not supposed to feel angry or frustrated, so I'll just shut down. But, of course, if you repress any emotion, it just turns into all emotion is repressed. So I wonder if I was kind of implementing, I was experiencing depression because of my habitual emotional repression. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but I'm suspicious if that was not the case. And then, of course, I'm distracting myself by focusing in on somebody else, the good old, I'm having feelings or lack of feelings that I don't like, and I don't want to deal with it, so I'm going to codependently focus on someone else, or as Elder David A. Bednar would say, I'm going to turn out. And I'm not going to focus on myself selfishly, but I'm going to focus on others. I had that period of being so obsessed with that talk. So focus on Sydney, because seems like she went to the temple with Sister Feist. They went and did baptisms. And she decided to go on a mission. And I can just see how perhaps that was just an answer of her prayer to God, right? Perhaps that was purely prayerful, spiritual manifestation. But also, I can't help but notice that she's spending, literally every day with the missionaries, and we were like constantly telling her, pressuring her to go on a mission, and basically we were trying to say, your life here in South Dakota is not good. We need to get you out of this place where you're surrounded by non-Mormons. We need to get you to Utah. You need to go to school in Utah. You can't go to school here. People here aren't good influences for you. And you need to be a missionary. And fortunately, she ended up not doing that. And I think her life's much better off for it. And that's my 28th week as a Mormon sister missionary. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast if you want to continue following my story. Ratings and reviews are very helpful and appreciated. And please share this with anyone you think would be interested. I hope you have a great week. And if you want my advice, just remember that you can love others best when you love yourself first. Bye!